guitars, I really believe this. I think a lot of guitars have specific voices. Some guitars don't really have much voice, and that can be a cool tool as well, because that they can be somewhat omnipotent. They can kind of do everything. But I have an array of different instruments, not only guitars, but like a baritone, or I have an ukulele, or a dobro, square neck dobro, or lap steel, mando guitar, acoustics as well, obviously, and they're all variants of stringed instruments, but they all have such different timbres and textures, and every time I pick up one of my instruments, they kind of transport me in a manner of that I'm always searching for, to really take me to a whole nother environment where I feel as though I can, your eyes roll in the back of your head and you start to create something. Every time I pick up an instrument, I want to try to be inspired, and all my instruments that I own are exceptional at inspiring me, to take me to another level of creative process. Always maintain a focus of is as my friend Tom Bukovac, a great session guitar player here in Nashville, told me, doing sessions or playing with anybody for that matter, it's a service industry. You have to separate yourself from what you're performing and what you might want to do versus what is required and what is necessary and what is best for what the particular artist is requiring you to have you there for. And my attitude on that is always serve the song. Always try to think about perfect example is when you get a gig with a touring gig. Sometimes you'll get a record, especially in Nashville, where there might be 6 guitar parts. Literally a couple, acoustic, baritone, maybe, obviously an electric or 2 pass, and there might be a fiddle player and a steel player that overdub, but because, economics prevail, they don't have those musicians in the touring band. So as you're learning these songs, you're sitting there going, oh my God, I've got 2 hands. How am I going to condense all that down? And that's where you may not even play one of those parts, absolutely, verbatim, but you might almost do a composite of those. And, you have to be prepared again going into like a touring situation of what the integral components of that song are. So if the artist turns around and says, I don't like that, you go, no problem. I've got this in size 8. Let me play this, No problem. I've got this in, whatever, size 6, and let's try this. And hopefully, paying respect to the artist, to do your homework, to be prepared. And from a session standpoint, it's a little different in the sense you don't know what you're going to get, because you're going in cold sometimes. They'll sit there, you go in, you set up, you have your donuts, and everyone's having a good time, telling a couple of laughs, and then they play the demo, and it's the first time you might have heard the song, and same manner. Some artists are specific where they want the demo exactly like what the demo is, and they call it demoitis, where they get so caught up in it that they don't want to hear anything different, or they're not prepared to hear anything different. But other artists just merely look at the demo as an overlay. As like, hey, this is just basically what we're doing, and I want you to interpret it. And again, it's not always about massive chops in the studio, or even for that matter on touring. It's definitely about vocabulary, musicality, awareness, sensitivity to listening, and being able to know if you shouldn't even be playing at this moment. I wouldn't say I practice like I used to. I do play, and I try to play every day. I mean, I'm always doing something. But again, when I pick up a guitar or lap steel or whatever, it's usually with a creative process in mind. And so I think at this point, I'd like to think that my musicality is more developed now after all these years. My technique has probably suffered. Actually, I shouldn't say probably, it has suffered. But I think my awareness has been more developed now, and again, it's wonderful to play a bunch of notes and so forth and whatever, but and singers now trying to sing a lot, they oversing and so forth, and a lot of tremendous technical people out there, but people like Aretha Franklin and Ray Charles and Buddy Miller, I mean, these guys changed the world, and they don't sing so many notes. I'm just a guy from Virginia, it's just a punk kid, 13 years old in my heart, and I'm not, there's prodigy musicians, who are just, they were, the guitar was, growing out of them, I'm not anything close to that. I'm just a guy who practiced really hard and loved music so much that I wanted to become not just a listener, I wanted to become a participant, and, the thing for me is I'm grateful that anybody cares. I really am. I mean, that might sound jive, and it's not. I'm really, that anybody will call me or ask me or, say something about my music, one way or the other. I'm thrilled. I'm really very fortunate.